Melanie here from International TEFL Academy in Costa Rica. Thanks for tuning in to our grammar presentations. Those of you that are already teaching English, we hope this is a good opportunity for you to refresh the content that you need to teach so you can be more confident in the classroom. And those of you that are thinking about teaching English abroad, we hope this is the first step in embarking in that journey. Let's get started.
Let's take a look at the present perfect simple. We'll start by looking at some examples. I have been to Cuba. That's an example of a first-person singular positive sentence in the present perfect simple. Frank has danced salsa. For an example of the third-person singular. And first-person plural. We have seen this movie many times. We can see that these are things that have happened in the past. However, they are general life experiences. There's no reference to time. This is one of the many functions of the present perfect simple, which is the one we're going to focus on today. To form sentences in the positive form of present perfect simple, we will conjugate have in the present simple for our subject. For example, I have, or he has. The conjugation of have will then be followed by a past participle, which we'll look at here more in a second. A few more examples of the present perfect simple. I have lived in Costa Rica. Have is conjugated for the subject I, and it is followed by a past participle. My son has seen many movies. Has is the third person singular conjugation of have, and seen is the past participle of the verb to see. And we have rehearsed for many hours. We have conjugated the verb have for our first person plural subject we, and that is followed by the past participle rehearsed. Again, these are all life experiences. We're not referencing time. When our English students are learning verbs, they are going to memorize them in three main forms: the present indicative or the infinitive, the past simple, and the past participle, which we need in order to create the perfect tenses like the present perfect simple. The past participle is the third form of the verb, and it's the form of the verb that cannot stand alone. It will always be with an auxiliary verb or a helping verb like have or has. So let's look at some specific verbs. For example, the verb write. In the past simple, for example, yesterday, I wrote. And in the participle form, I have written. So the past participle of the verb write is written. Write is an example of an irregular verb. Let's look at an example of a regular verb. Listen. So in the past simple, yesterday, I listened. And the past participle looks exactly the same because we would say I have listened. So if your past simple conjugation and your past participle form end in the ed, you know you're working with a regular verb. Let's look at the verb cook. Yesterday I cooked, and I have cooked. So here's another example of a regular verb that uses the ed ending in both the past simple and the past participle. There are a number of irregular verbs that we use on a common basis, though, so it's important for our students to understand them as well. For example, drink. Yesterday I drank, but I have drunk. The past participle of the verb drink is drunk with a U. And cut. Yesterday I cut, and I have cut. So they actually look the same. Okay, but there is no ed conjugation, so this is considered an irregular verb. So again, the past participle is that third form of the verb. The form of the verb that cannot stand alone, it will always be with an auxiliary verb like have or has. To form a negative sentence in the present perfect simple, we will simply add not after the conjugation of have and before the past participle. For example, I haven't been to Japan. Haven't is the contraction of have not. Third person singular, my son hasn't seen Star Wars. Hasn't is the contraction for has not. And we have not practiced this song yet, or we haven't. The contraction haven't is for have not.
I've never bought a pair of tennis shoes.
That's all. Used. I have never seen the other side of the world.
True. I've never been drunk in my life. That's so tricky.
So drunk? False. A little bit?
I've been.
I have cooked delicious dinner for my whole family last year.
False. Super mega false. I've never danced before.
False. Your name. I have visited Argentina.
To ask questions in the present perfect simple, we only need to invert the conjugation of have and the subject of the sentence. For example, have you visited another country? First the conjugation of have, then our subject, then our past participle. Has he been to a movie theater? First our conjugation has for the subject he, then our past participle been. And finally, have we prepared enough? Have, conjugated for the subject we, followed by our past participle prepared. Okay, let's review the present perfect simple. Remember, we use this tense to talk about general life experiences. No specific references, especially to time. For example, Jim has been to many countries. He hasn't lived abroad. Have you visited another country? We're going to use conjugations of have in the present simple, have or has, and our conjugation should be followed by a past participle. Remember, a past participle is the form of the verb that always needs to be with an auxiliary verb or a helper. To make a question, I will start with my conjugation of have, followed by the subject and then the past participle.